I sit in Caleb Whitaker's law office. My black funeral dress still crisp despite being worn 3 days ago for Uncle Ben's service. The fabric scratches against my skin, a constant reminder of loss that matches the hollow feeling in my chest. Caleb adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses, shuffling papers with practiced precision. Sunlight streams through Venetian blinds, creating prison bar shadows across the polished mahogany conference table. As the sole beneficiary of Benjamin Thomas's estate, Caleb begins, his voice gentle but firm. You inherit approximately $1.8 million in liquid assets, a majority stake in Arcadia Home and Living valued at $14.9 million, and the Craftsman estate, conservatively appraised at $2.2 million. I nod mechanically, the numbers washing over me like cold water. Uncle Ben had prepared me for this, mentioning the business would be mine someday. But someday wasn't supposed to be at 26. Someday was supposed to be decades from now, after thousands more Sunday dinners and Christmas mornings with the only real parent I'd ever known. There are some additional personal items, Caleb continues, sliding a folder toward me. Your uncle's watch collection, his classic Thunderbird, and the conference room door swings open without a knock. I turn, expecting Caleb's secretary with more coffee. My heart stops. Grant and Nadine Thomas stand in the doorway, looking older but unmistakable. My father's once dark hair now salt and pepper. My mother's face lined but still beautiful in that distant way I remember from childhood. 16 years. 16 years since they left me with nothing but a hastily scrawled note. My hands begin to shake uncontrollably. The coffee cup rattles against its saucer, liquid sloshing dangerously close to the rim. My heartbeat becomes a physical presence, pounding in my ears like someone trying to break down a door. We heard about Benjamin's passing, Grant says, stepping forward with practiced sympathy dripping from every word. We're so sorry for your loss, honey. Honey. The endearment lands like a slap. My stomach twists violently, bile rising in my throat. The room tilts slightly, the edges of my vision blurring. I grip the table edge, feeling the cool wood under my fingertips, desperately searching for something solid as my childhood abandonment trauma floods back with tsunami force. You can't be here, I whisper, barely recognizing my own voice. You left me. You chose to leave. My mother takes a step toward me, her perfume still the same, after all these years wafting across the table. Stella, sweetheart, did you know they were coming? I ask Caleb desperately, my eyes never leaving my parents' faces. His stunned expression answers before his words can. I most certainly did not, he says, rising to his feet with surprising speed for a man in his 60s. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this is a private meeting regarding confidential estate matters. The morning I found them gone flashes through my mind with brutal clarity. Age 10, padding into the kitchen for breakfast, finding only empty coffee cups and a note propped against the sugar bowl. Uncle Ben will take care of you. Not even an, I love you or, we'll be back. Just 7 words, severing our family ties like they meant nothing. Then another memory surfaces, that first night with Uncle Ben and Iris. Warm soup despite the summer heat because Iris said it was good for the soul. Gentle hands braiding my hair before bed. Iris humming a lullaby her grandmother taught her. Uncle Ben reading Goodnight Moon even though I was too old for it because he found it on my bookshelf and thought it might comfort me. Something shifts inside me. The abandoned child who still inexplicably wants her parents' battles with the adult who knows better. My analytical mind begins to surface through the shock. What do you want? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. My father smiles, the same smile he used when convincing customers to buy the extended warranty. We wanted to pay our respects, of course, and to see you. It's been too long. I need to process Uncle Ben's death before dealing with this, I say, making a small protective gesture between us. My first boundary, wobbly but present. Grant's smile doesn't falter, but his eyes harden. Stella, we're family. We have every right to be here. We've been waiting to reconnect, Nadine adds, her voice soft and reasonable, and now seemed like the right time. The right time. Just after Uncle Ben died. Just as I inherited everything he built. The realization hits me with stunning clarity: everything Uncle Ben created for me is now at risk. These people, these strangers with familiar faces, didn't come back for me. They came back for what I now have. They stand there calm and prepared, while I'm grieving and shocked. The power imbalance couldn't be clearer. Mrs. Thomas, Caleb interjects, his professional demeanor firmly back in place. Perhaps we should schedule another meeting. Miss Thomas is still processing her loss, and there are several estate matters requiring immediate attention. My parents exchange a look I recognize from childhood, the silent communication that always preceded unified action. They planned this timing deliberately, targeting me at my most vulnerable. A soft knock at the door breaks the tension. Iris appears, her silver-streaked hair pulled back in her customary bun, fresh tissues clutched in one hand. Her eyes take in the scene with startling speed, narrowing slightly when she sees my parents. "Miss Stella, I brought the car around," she says, her southern accent thickening as it always does when she's upset. "You look pale, dear." I face a choice: flee with Iris or stay and confront. The business director in me says stay, show strength. The frightened child says run, find safety. But before I can decide, Iris quietly positions herself between me and my parents, her slender frame somehow forming a protective barrier that has nothing to do with physical size. Grant's gaze slides dismissively over Iris. "Still keeping the help around, I see?" Iris stiffens but remains dignified. "I've been part of this family for 16 years, Mr. Thomas. The emphasis on family speaks volumes." Something solidifies in my chest, the first spark of real resolve. I stand, gathering my purse and Uncle Ben's folder. "Iris is family," I say, looking directly at my parents for the first time. "You two are strangers." The words hang in the air, simple but powerful. I don't run for the door, but I do move to stand beside Iris, our shoulders nearly touching. A clear message: I won't face this alone. My father's expression hardens, but my mother actually flinches. "Good, let them feel something for once. We'll be in touch," Grant says, as if he's concluding a business meeting. "I'm sure you will," I reply, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. As we walk toward the door, Iris's hand finds mine, giving it a quick squeeze. The silent support says what words cannot. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. On Sunday, I stand in Uncle Ben's kitchen, my kitchen, now watching a pot of coffee brew while sunlight streams through the bay windows. 3 days have passed since the ambush at Caleb's office. 3 days of sleepless nights, jumping at every car that drives past the house, wondering if they'll show up again. The front doorbell chimes, answering my question. I don't need to check the peephole to know who's standing on the porch. The coffee machine beeps, but I leave it, moving toward the door with my heart hammering against my ribs. I pause, hand on the knob, breathing deeply the way Iris taught me as a child after nightmares. When I open the door, they're standing side by side, looking like an aging catalog couple. Grant in pressed khakis and a blue button-down, Nadine in a cream-colored cardigan and tailored slacks. They've aged 16 years since I last saw them, but they're unmistakable. Grant's square jaw, Nadine's delicate nose. The same features I see in the mirror every morning. "You can't just show up here," I say, keeping my body firmly in the doorway. Grant smiles, the same smile he used when convincing neighbors to invest in his latest scheme. "We just want to talk, Stella. 5 minutes." I hesitate. Caleb advised against any contact, but part of me, that stubborn 10-year-old who still wants answers, overrules my better judgment. I step back, allowing them into the house where I grew up without them. They follow me to the kitchen, their eyes sweeping over the home's details, the renovated cabinets, the Viking range, Uncle Ben installed last year, the expensive artwork, cataloging. Assessing. "Coffee?" I ask, less from hospitality than a need to occupy my hands. "Black for me," Grant says, settling into a chair at the kitchen table as if he belongs there. "Your mother takes cream and sugar." "I know how Iris takes her coffee," I reply coldly. "I was asking about you two." Nadine winces, but accepts the mug I hand her. "This is a beautiful home," she says after an awkward silence. "Benjamin always had exquisite taste." I don't respond, leaning against the counter instead of joining them at the table, Uncle Ben's table, where he taught me algebra and business ethics and how to balance a checkbook. Grant takes a deliberate sip of coffee before placing a leather portfolio on the table. "We've done our research. That business is worth nearly $15 million. The bluntness of it, the naked greed, shouldn't surprise me, but it does. The thin veneer of parental concern already stripped away. And I keep my voice neutral. Nadine opens the portfolio, revealing pages of financial documents, spreadsheets, valuation reports, property assessments. "We just want to understand the full picture, honey." "Stop calling me honey." The words come out sharper than I intended. "What is all this?" Grant slides a document across the table. A complete financial analysis of your inheritance. The business, the liquid assets, the real estate, everything. I don't touch the paper. Where did you get this information? That's not important, Grant says. What matters is... It matters to me, I interrupt. You've been gone 16 years. Now you show up 3 days after Uncle Ben's funeral with detailed financial information about his estate? Nadine exchanges a glance with Grant. We tried contacting Benjamin many times over the years. For money, I say, the pieces suddenly clicking into place. You contacted him for money. Neither denies it. He never told me. The realization lands like a punch. Uncle Ben protected me from them, shielded me from their attempts at manipulation. Grant sighs, a practiced sound of exasperation. Your uncle painted a very one-sided picture of us, I'm sure. He didn't need to paint anything. You left a note saying, Uncle Ben will take care of you, and disappeared. That paints its own picture. Nadine reaches for her purse, removing a folder different from Grant's portfolio. There are things you don't understand, Stella. She slides it across the table. I hesitate, then open it. Inside are court documents, custody papers, legal statements, financial records. My eyes catch on a figure from 2009, $13,500. What is this? I ask, though the sick feeling in my stomach tells me I already know. We were in a difficult situation, Nadine says softly. We needed money, and Benjamin offered to take full custody of you if you signed away your parental rights, I finish, scanning the document with growing horror. You sold me for $13,000. That's not how it was, Grant protests, but his eyes shift away from mine. It's exactly how it was. I push the documents back. You legally signed me away for cash. The kitchen falls silent except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway, Uncle Ben's clock, the one he wound every Sunday evening while telling me stories about his childhood. My entire world shifts beneath me. Uncle Ben wasn't just generous in taking me in, he was protective. He paid them to stay away. Every gift, every opportunity he gave me was part of a shield he built around me. His occasional sadness, the distant look he would get sometimes while watching me open Christmas presents, it all makes sense now. You planned this timing, I say, the realization crystallizing. You waited for him to die. Grant straightens, abandoning pretense. We have problems, Stella. Serious problems. What kind of problems? I owe people, he admits. $85,000 to men who don't take excuses. Nadine adds, and I've been in treatment for depression. The medical bills. She trails off. $45,000 in credit card debt. So, you're here because you need money within what, 60 days? I ask, connecting their urgency to their desperation. Grant looks surprised that I've figured it out so quickly. We're still your parents, he says, leaning forward. Family helps family. Family doesn't abandon family, I counter. Family doesn't sell their child. We'll contest the will if necessary, Grant says, voice hardening. We have rights as your biological parents. I almost laugh. You signed away those rights for $13,000. In court. Legal details can be reinterpreted, he threatens. We had bad representation. The threat hangs in the air between us. These aren't just desperate people, they're dangerous. They have nothing left to lose, which makes them unpredictable. The fact that they're willing to destroy my peace after Uncle Ben's death proves they're formidable opponents. A floorboard creaks in the doorway. Iris stands there, her eyes taking in the scene, the documents scattered across the table, my rigid posture, my parents' desperate expressions. I think that's enough for today, she says quietly but firmly. Grant glances at her dismissively. This is a family matter, Iris. Yes, it is, she replies, moving to stand beside me. And Stella is my family. My parents gather their documents, sensing they've pushed as far as they can today. At the door, Grant turns back. Think about what we said. We'll be in touch. After they leave, Iris guides me to the couch in the living room and disappears into the kitchen. She returns with tea in Uncle Ben's special porcelain cups, the ones we only used when something important happened. You heard everything? I ask. She nods. Mr. Ben saw this day coming. He prepared for it. My phone buzzes on the coffee table. Caleb's name flashes on the screen. Stella, he says when I answer. I've been reviewing some files. I have some things to show you about your parents' previous attempts. You knew? I ask. Not until today, Ben kept separate records I wasn't aware of until I found his personal safe deposit box key. There's a lot here: legal documentation, witness testimonies. Iris takes my free hand. We'll face this together, dear. Looking between Iris's steady presence and Caleb's name on my phone, I realize something Uncle Ben clearly knew. I'm not fighting alone or unprepared. I have a team: Iris with her knowledge of our family history, Caleb with his legal strategy. The foundation for a sustained campaign is already in place. Uncle Ben didn't just leave me his money. He left me the tools to protect it. I arrive at Caleb's office early Monday morning, my leather portfolio clutched against my chest like a shield. The mahogany conference table is covered with neat stacks of manila folders, each labeled in Uncle Ben's meticulous handwriting. Caleb adjusts his wire-rimmed glasses, the morning sunlight catching on the lenses. Your uncle was nothing if not thorough, he says, sliding a folder toward me. These are private investigator reports dating from 2019 through 2023. Ben hired someone to document every contact attempt your parents made. My fingertips tingle as I flip through the pages. Photographs of Grant lurking outside Arcadia's flagship store. Transcripts of voicemails left on Ben's private line. Financial requests ranging from $5,000 to $75,000 for various emergencies. There's more, Caleb says, opening another folder. Audio recordings. Ben installed a special system after the first few encounters. He taps his computer keyboard, and suddenly Grant's voice fills the room, lower and gruffer than I remember but unmistakable. Listen, Benjamin, we both know you've got the money. If you don't help out your own brother, I'll cause problems for that precious business of yours. The girl doesn't need to know about this conversation. My stomach clenches. Play it again. Caleb obliges, and this time I focus on the background noises: clinking glasses, muted conversations. That sounds like Charlie's Tavern. Uncle Ben never went there. They must have followed him somewhere else and cornered him. Another folder reveals medical emergency letters from my mother, each more desperate than the last. Hospital bills for conditions that, according to Ben's notes, were investigated and proven false. This is the most significant piece, Caleb says, his voice softening as he places a court document before me. A restraining order granted in 2021. Your uncle secured legal protection against their harassment. My eyes scan the document, absorbing the judge's assessment of repeated pattern of financial exploitation attempts and deliberate emotional manipulation. The timing, I say, the realization washing over me. They've been watching obituary notices, haven't they? They knew exactly when to strike. Caleb nods. Ben suspected they would. That's why he documented everything, so you'd have ammunition when they inevitably appeared. For the first time since that terrible day in this very office, I feel something besides fear and shock. Power. Real power based on evidence, not just wounded emotion. Uncle Ben hadn't just left me his wealth, he'd left me protection. I want to meet them, I say, my voice steadier than it's been in days. But not here. At the store. Are you certain that's wise? Caleb asks, concern evident in the slight tilt of his head. They won't make a scene in public, I explain, already reaching for my phone. And I want witnesses. 2 hours later, I stand in the center of Arcadia Home and Living's main showroom floor, surrounded by carefully curated furniture displays that Uncle Ben spent decades perfecting. Polished oak dining tables, plush sectional sofas in warm earth tones, handcrafted bedroom sets built to last generations. When Grant and Nadine enter through the front doors, several customers turn to look. My parents are well dressed, as always, Grant in a charcoal suit that can't quite hide his thickening waistline. Nadine in a cream-colored dress that makes her appear younger than her years. I wait until they approach, deliberately positioning myself beside an antique desk that Ben restored himself. My fingers rest lightly on its surface, drawing strength from the connection. Thank you for coming, I say, my voice carrying just enough to be heard by nearby customers without seeming confrontational. I found Uncle Ben's files about you, all of them. Grant's confident stride falters almost imperceptibly. A flicker of something worry, anger, crosses his features before his salesman's smile returns. Stella, honey, I'm not sure what you think you've found, but... The court orders, I interrupt, watching his eyes widen slightly. The restraining order from 2021, the documented harassment, the fake medical emergencies. Nadine steps forward, her perfume a cloud of expensive distraction. Those were desperate times. We've changed. You can't possibly understand what we were going through. I understand perfectly, I say, sliding a photocopied document from my portfolio. I found the check stub, $13,500. That's what you took to sign away your rights to me. The color drains from Nadine's face. A middle-aged couple browsing nearby stops pretending not to listen. You don't understand the context, Grant says, his voice dropping to an urgent whisper. We had debts, people threatening us. And I was worth $13,000. I keep my voice level, professional. This is a business negotiation now, not a family reunion. That's the price you put on your daughter years ago. For the first time, I see something genuine in my mother's eyes, shame, perhaps, or regret. Grant's jaw tightens as he glances around, noticing the store employees who have strategically positioned themselves within earshot. We should discuss this privately, he insists, reaching for my arm. I step back. There's nothing to discuss. The court records are clear. You have no legal claim to me or anything Uncle Ben left me. We're still your parents, Nadine says, her voice breaking slightly. Biology isn't family, I reply. Uncle Ben taught me that. Grant's face hardens. This isn't over, Stella. Actually, it island. For today. I gesture toward the exit. Please don't return to this store. You're not welcome here. They hesitate, clearly unprepared for this level of resistance. Grant looks like he wants to argue further, but the public setting has robbed him of his advantages. With a final glare, he takes Nadine's elbow and steers her toward the door. I remain standing, straight-backed and still, until the glass doors close behind them. Only then do I allow my hands to tremble slightly, the adrenaline rush beginning to subside. Sarah, our store manager, approaches with an approving smile. Your uncle always said you were stronger than you knew. Other employees drift over, offering supportive comments and impressed glances. The middle-aged couple who witnessed the confrontation stops to shake my hand. That took courage, the woman says. Ben would have been proud. Outside in the parking lot, I find Iris waiting beside her modest blue sedan, her eyes scanning my face anxiously. They've gone, I assure her as I approach. For now, at least. Her smile blooms slowly, warming her entire face. He would be so proud, Miss Stella. So very proud. My phone buzzes with a text from Caleb. The court records are ironclad. You did well today. Standing in the afternoon sunlight, surrounded by the business Uncle Ben built, and the people who actually care about me, I feel a strange mixture of triumph and caution. This victory, satisfying as it is, feels incomplete. Grant's parting words echo in my mind. This isn't over. I know better than to underestimate their desperation. They've had years to plan this approach, waiting for the perfect moment of vulnerability. Today I pushed back effectively, but their retreat seems too easy, too temporary. The question now is whether to press my advantage immediately, or prepare more thoroughly for what feels like an inevitable larger battle. Uncle Ben always preached patience in business negotiations. The person who rushes reveals their weakness, he'd say. As Iris drives us home, I stare out the window at the familiar streets of the city Uncle Ben loved. The first real sense of control since his death settles over me, not erasing my grief but somehow making it more bearable. Iris, I say quietly, I think we need to be ready for something bigger. She nods, understanding without explanation. Mr. Ben's files might have more we haven't found yet. The chess game has only just begun. I've won the first exchange, but the real test still lies ahead. I spread Uncle Ben's documents across Caleb's conference table, organizing them in neat rows. It's been 3 days since I confronted my parents at the store. 3 days of cold calculation, replacing the raw triumph I felt, watching them retreat through those automatic doors. These are all the legal challenges they might attempt, Caleb says, sliding a folder toward me. His wire-rimmed glasses catch the morning light as he leans forward. Your uncle anticipated most of them. I nod, studying the papers, with the same intensity I bring to quarterly profit reviews. The victory at the store satisfied something primal in me, but Uncle Ben taught me better. He'd drill into me during our Sunday business lunches. Stella, never mistake a battle for the war. They'll try to claim undue influence, I say, tapping a document outlining Ben's mental state during his final year. That he wasn't competent when he made me his heir. Caleb smiles faintly. And we have 6 months of medical evaluations proving otherwise. I've transformed his conference room into a command center. Documents spread systematically across the polished surface. Yellow legal pads filled with my notes flank both sides. Coffee cups stand like sentries at strategic intervals. This isn't emotional anymore, this is business. Uncle Ben never acted without complete information. I murmur, more to myself than to Caleb. I won't either. My phone buzzes with a text from Iris. Miss Stella, they drove past the house again. Third time today. Something cold settles in my stomach. The triumph from our store confrontation feels distant now, replaced by methodical preparation. My parents aren't just desperate, they're determined. We need to document everything. I tell Caleb, showing him the text. Every drive-by, every contact attempt, every person they speak to about me or the business. Caleb reaches for his legal pad. I'll draft a cease and desist order. It won't stop them, but it establishes a pattern of harassment if we need it later. I turn to Ben's business journals, studying his approach to hostile competition. He faced 3 takeover attempts during his career, navigating each with the same steady hand he used to braid my hair that first night after my parents left. His strategy was never about emotion, it was about preparation. They'll try to find weaknesses in the company, I say, flipping through incorporation documents. Places where they could claim mismanagement or financial impropriety. Which is why we're conducting a full audit, Caleb responds. Already underway. The hollow feeling that plagued me since Uncle Ben's death has transformed into something harder, more focused. This isn't just about protecting my inheritance anymore, it's about honoring how methodically Ben protected me for 16 years. Later that afternoon, Iris arrives with a file folder of her own. She places it on the table with careful precision, her fingers lingering on the edges. I kept track of things, she says quietly. Phone calls during Mr. Ben's illness, visitors who came by but never came in. Thought you might need it. I open the folder to find meticulous notes in Iris's careful handwriting, dates, times, descriptions of cars that drove slowly past the house during Ben's final months. They were watching him die. I whisper, the realization landing like a physical blow. Iris nods, her expression unchanged but her eyes hardening slightly. I believe they were, Miss Stella. I reach for my phone, calling Sarah at the main store. Sarah, I need you to document if my parents come in asking questions about anything inventory, staffing, finances. And ask the other managers to do the same. Already happening, Sarah replies. Your father was in yesterday asking about our supply chain, said he was just curious about the family business. A chill runs through me. They're more thorough than I gave them credit for. Thank you, I tell her. Document everything but don't engage beyond basic courtesy. By evening, we've established a network of watchers, store managers, warehouse staff, even delivery drivers, all alert for my parents' probing questions, not to confront them, just to track them. To build our case without tipping our hand, I'm reviewing security footage from the warehouse when Caleb's phone rings. His expression darkens as the conversation progresses. They've hired Martin Keene, he says after hanging up, the name landing with weight. My stomach drops. The attorney who sued Uncle Ben's company in 2018? Caleb nods grimly. The very same. He knows every vulnerability in the company's legal structure. Your parents have done their homework, Stella. I lean back in my chair, processing this new threat. They're not just desperate gamblers grasping at straws, they're strategic opponents with knowledge of our weaknesses. They're smarter than I gave them credit for, I say quietly. Caleb gathers documents into a neat stack. Intelligence without integrity is still beatable. I nod, turning back to Uncle Ben's business journals. My early victory at the store feels hollow now, a minor skirmish before the real battle. But Uncle Ben prepared for this moment for 16 years. And now, so will I. I adjust my reading glasses, squinting at the paperwork spread across Caleb's conference table. 4 days of strategic planning has transformed this once formal space into something resembling a war room. Yellow legal pads filled with notes sit beside color-coded folders. A whiteboard mounted on the wall displays a timeline of my parents' previous attempts to contact Uncle Ben, each incident meticulously documented with dates and outcomes. The no contest clause is ironclad, Caleb says, sliding another document toward me. His silver hair catches the afternoon light streaming through the Venetian blinds. Anyone contesting the will automatically forfeits any potential inheritance. Your uncle was explicit about that. I nod, tracing my finger along the paragraph in question. The language feels like Uncle Ben, precise, thoughtful, leaving nothing to chance. What about the litigation trust? Fully funded and operational. Caleb removes his glasses, polishing them with a handkerchief. Ben established it with enough capital to fight a 5-year legal battle if necessary. My stomach tightens at the thought. Not fear exactly, but the weight of what's at stake. I think of Uncle Ben, how he'd approach this methodical, thorough, leaving nothing to chance. This isn't about a quick victory like the confrontation at the store. This is about securing everything he built, everything he entrusted to me. Miss Stella? Iris appears in the doorway, a leather portfolio clutched against her chest. Her silver-streaked hair is pulled back in its customary bun, not a strand out of place despite the intensity of our preparations. I've collected the statements from all of Mr. Ben's caregivers during his illness. Every nurse, doctor, and therapist confirmed his mental clarity right up until the end. Thank you, Iris. I take the portfolio, adding it to our growing arsenal of documentation. Any word from the store managers? All financial records secured, just as you requested. Mr. Johnson called to confirm the business stability reports are ready whenever you need them. I exhale slowly, mentally checking off another item on our list. We're not winning anything yet, just positioning our pieces on the board with careful precision. The store confrontation was satisfying but ultimately just a skirmish. What we're preparing for now is war. We're approaching this exactly as Ben would have wanted, Caleb remarks, his voice carrying a hint of approval. Building a comprehensive defense before they can mount their next attack. Iris hovers near the doorway, her fingers fidgeting with the edge of her cardigan, a nervous habit I've rarely seen from her. Something's bothering her. Iris? What is it? She hesitates, then steps fully into the room. I was reviewing Mr. Ben's will again, and I noticed something I hadn't before. Her voice drops slightly. He named me as the backup executor, in case anything should happen to you. The revelation hits me with unexpected force. Not because it's surprising Uncle Ben trusting Iris makes perfect sense, but because of what it means now. If my parents are targeting me and my inheritance, they might also target Iris. Caleb, does this put Iris at risk? My voice sharpens with concern. The attorney frowns thoughtfully. It could. If they're researching Ben's estate planning thoroughly, they'll discover her role. They might try to discredit her, or claim she influenced Ben's decisions. A cold feeling spreads through my chest. This isn't just about my inheritance anymore. It's about protecting someone I love, someone who's been more of a mother to me than Nadine ever was. We need to expand our strategy, I say, standing up and pacing the length of the conference table. Not just protecting the estate, but protecting Iris too. I don't want to be additional trouble, Miss Stella, Iris protests gently. You're not trouble, I respond firmly. You're family, and we protect family. The words emerge with a conviction that surprises even me. 7 days ago, I was a shaking mess in this very room. Now I'm standing tall, thinking of others beyond myself. Uncle Ben would be proud of that growth, I think. My sources tell me your parents have been asking questions about all of Ben's relationships. Caleb interjects, checking his phone, including his long-term employees. My mind races with this new information. Do I tell Iris everything about the potential danger, adding to her worries? Or do I protect her by handling this myself? The dilemma twists in my stomach, another test of my evolving leadership. For the next 2 hours, we adapt our preparation work, expanding protective measures to cover Iris as well. Caleb drafts affidavits from former employees testifying to Iris's professional relationship with Uncle Ben. I pull employee reviews showing her consistent performance over 16 years. Each document becomes another brick in the wall we're building, not just around me, but around everyone I care about. By evening, the conference room table holds the complete scope of our defensive strategy. Financial records, witness statements, legal precedents, historical documentation, all organized and ready. Caleb reviews the final checklist, then looks up with quiet confidence. We're as ready as we can be. It's time. I glance at Iris, who stands by the window watching the sunset paint the Seattle skyline in shades of orange and gold. She turns, meeting my gaze with steady eyes that have witnessed 16 years of family history. Mr. Ben's plan is solid, she says softly. You have everything you need. Looking at the assembled documentation, the physical manifestation of Uncle Ben's foresight and our careful preparation, I feel a strange calm settling over me. The frightened woman who sat in this room a week ago has transformed into someone strategic, prepared, ready to protect what matters. Tomorrow will bring the confrontation we've been building toward. But tonight, surrounded by the fruits of our preparation. I know we're ready for whatever my parents throw at us next. The certified letter arrives Wednesday morning next week, its official stamp glaring up from the kitchen counter where Iris placed it. My fingers tremble slightly as I slide my thumb under the flap, tearing the paper with a sound that seems unnaturally loud in the quiet kitchen. Court summons, I announce, my voice steadier than I feel. They're contesting the will. Iris's spoon clatters against her coffee cup. After everything? I scan the dense legal language, my stomach tightening with each paragraph. They're claiming undue influence. That Uncle Ben wasn't of sound mind when he changed his will. The words feel like acid on my tongue. And they've filed for a temporary injunction to freeze all assets, including the business, while the case is pending. The papers tremble in my hands. This isn't just about the money anymore. They're trying to take everything. The house, the business, Uncle Ben's legacy, my entire life. Who's representing them? Iris asks, moving to read over my shoulder. Martin Keene. The name sits bitter in my mouth. Uncle Ben's old legal adversary, the attorney who tried to sue Arcadia 3 years ago over a supplier contract dispute. Not a coincidence. The phone rings, and Caleb's name flashes on the screen. He's already heard. They've been planning this for weeks, he says without preamble. Filed it strategically before Judge Harmon. She's known for being cautious with estate transfers. What are our chances? I ask, pacing across the kitchen floor. Better than theirs, but it's going to be ugly. They've done their homework, Stella. The emergency hearing is set for Friday morning. Friday. Less than 48 hours to prepare our defense. The room tilts slightly, and I grip the counter edge. They can't possibly win, I whisper. No, but they can drag this out for months. Caleb's voice hardens, during which time the business operations could be severely restricted. That's what they're counting on, that you'll settle, rather than risk Arcadia's stability. After I hang up, I stare out the kitchen window at the garden. Uncle Ben lovingly tended every spring. The azaleas he planted the year I graduated college have just begun to bloom, their vibrant pinks a mockery of the coldness spreading through my chest. They've been watching us, I say to Iris, waiting for the perfect moment. The doorbell interrupts my thoughts. Through the sidelights, I glimpse a familiar news van parked at the curb. A reporter stands on my porch, microphone in hand. Perfect timing. I swing the door open before she can ring again. Miss Thomas? Her smile is professional, practiced. Catherine Ward, Kiro News. We're doing a story about the Thomas estate dispute. Would you comment on your parents' concerns about your ability to manage such a substantial business during this time of grief? My stomach drops. They've gone public. No comment, I say, closing the door firmly. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah at the Bellevue store. Reporters here asking employees about you. What should we say? Another text chimes from our operations manager. 2 customers canceled large orders this morning, said they heard Arcadia might be changing ownership. I press my forehead against the cool wood of the door. Grant and Nadine aren't just fighting for assets, they're strategically undermining customer confidence, creating doubt about Arcadia's stability under my leadership. They've launched a PR campaign. I tell Iris, showing her the messages. They're positioning themselves as concerned parents worried about a grieving daughter making hasty decisions. That's despicable, Iris whispers, her normally kind face hardening. It's calculated, I reply, walking to Uncle Ben's study. And it's working. People are starting to question. I spend the next 4 hours on the phone with Caleb, implementing our countermeasures. His paralegal delivers a thick folder of documents, the adoption papers Uncle Ben prepared years ago but never filed. Court records of my parents' harassment, private investigator reports documenting their financial troubles. By evening, my dining room resembles a war room. Legal briefs cover every surface. The store managers have joined us, armed with sales reports and employee testimonials about Uncle Ben's unwavering confidence in my leadership abilities. They're good, Caleb admits, reviewing Grant and Nadine's filing. They've been careful not to appear overtly greedy. Instead, they're expressing concern about preserving Benjamin's legacy. It's manipulative but effective. Some of the neighbors are actually wondering if they might have a point, Iris adds quietly. Margaret Wilson asked me today if you were really ready to handle such responsibility. The betrayal stings. Margaret has known me since I was 10. We need to be smarter, I say, gathering everyone around the table. They've been planning this for months, maybe years. We have 41 hours until that hearing. I distribute assignments with a calm that surprises even me. Sarah will coordinate employee testimonials. Caleb's team will prepare exhibits demonstrating Uncle Ben's consistent intent to leave me the business. Iris will contact Ben's doctors to testify about his mental clarity until the end. What about you? Caleb asks. I'm going to study every case Martin Keene has ever argued. I reply. And prepare for cross-examination. They'll try to paint me as emotionally unstable and financially inexperienced. As midnight approaches, only Iris remains, organizing witness statements into color-coded folders. She says gently, "So should you," I reply, but neither of us moves. The stakes are too high. Do you think we can win? I finally ask the question that's been haunting me. Iris looks up, her eyes fierce despite her exhaustion. They may have been planning this for years, but Ben was planning for this possibility longer. He knew exactly who they were and what they might try. She places her hand over mine. On Friday, we show them what real family looks like. My phone rings again, Caleb's number. Judge moved up the hearing, he says without greeting. Tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock. Martin filed for an emergency consideration, claiming urgent business matters require immediate resolution. My heart pounds. Can she do that? She can, and she did. We have less than 12 hours, Stella. I hang up and meet Iris's worried gaze. Tomorrow morning, I tell her. They've pushed up the timeline. They're trying to catch us unprepared, she says, already gathering the most critical documents. I know. I square my shoulders, feeling something hardening inside me. Not panic determination. Call everyone. Tell them to bring whatever they have, finished or not. We'll work through the night. As Iris makes calls, I walk to Uncle Ben's study and stand before his portrait. His kind eyes seem to look right through me. I won't let them take what you built, I whisper. I promise. The grandfather clock in the hall chimes once, marking the first hour of what will be the longest night of my life. By sunrise, I'll either be ready to fight for everything Uncle Ben entrusted to me, or I'll have failed him completely. There is no middle ground anymore. Tomorrow, I either keep everything or lose it all. I sit rigidly on the hard oak bench in the courthouse, my black blazer buttoned tight like armor. The clock on the paneled wall reads 9:03 a.m. Next to me, Iris fidgets with her handkerchief, the embroidered corner rubbing rhythmically between her fingers. Caleb arranges papers with surgical precision on the table before us. Across the aisle, my parents sit with their attorney, Martin Keene. The man who once sued Uncle Ben's company now represents the people who abandoned me. Grant wears a charcoal suit that screams expensive tailoring. Nadine has opted for a conservative navy dress, her hair swept into a maternal bun that makes my stomach turn. They've positioned themselves as concerned parents, not greedy opportunists. The bailiff's voice cuts through the whispers. All rise. The Honorable Judge Eleanor Richardson presiding. The judge enters, her silver hair pulled back severely, reading glasses perched on her nose. Her eyes sweep the courtroom with practiced neutrality as she takes her seat. Be seated. We're here for emergency proceedings regarding the contested estate of Benjamin Thomas. She glances at the files before her. I understand this is a time-sensitive matter. Mr. Keene, you may present your case. Martin Keene rises, buttoning his suit jacket. His confident smile reminds me of a game show host, polished and practiced. Thank you, Your Honor. We stand before you today representing Grant and Nadine Thomas, the aunt and uncle of Stella Thomas, who have serious concerns about the disposition of Benjamin Thomas's estate. Uncle and aunt. The deliberate terminology makes my fingers curl into fists under the table. Caleb notices and gives an almost imperceptible headshake. Stay calm. Let them show their hand first. Benjamin Thomas's death was sudden and unexpected, Keene continues. He suffered from hypertension and had experienced several minor cardiac events in the months preceding his passing. During this vulnerable time, his niece, Miss Thomas, who lived with him and depended on him financially, was in a position to exert undue influence. The accusation hangs in the air. My heart pounds against my ribs, but I keep my face neutral, just as Caleb and I practiced. We have documented precedent in Carmichael versus Westbrook where a caregiver relationship was found to create presumptive undue influence. Keene presents a stack of case law to the court clerk. We believe similar circumstances exist here, and request temporary injunctive relief, freezing the estate assets until a full hearing can determine if Benjamin Thomas was of sound mind and free from coercion when making Miss Thomas his sole beneficiary. My father leans forward, his face a perfect mask of concern. We only want what's best for our niece and for my brother's legacy. He tells the judge, Benjamin built that business from nothing. If he wasn't thinking clearly at the end, decisions might have been made that he wouldn't want. The judge turns to Caleb. Mr. Whitaker, your response? Caleb rises slowly, deliberately. Uncle Ben always said Caleb had courtroom timing like a Broadway actor. Your Honor, what we have before us today is not a case of undue influence. What we have is a calculated attempt at harassment disguised as family concern. He lifts a thick binder from our table. I've been Benjamin Thomas's attorney and friend for 30 years. I drafted his will, which has remained substantially unchanged since Stella Thomas was 12 years old, 2 years after her parents abandoned her. The word abandoned lands like a thunderclap. Several heads in the gallery turn toward my parents. I have here notarized documentation that Grant and Nadine Thomas legally signed away their parental rights to Benjamin for the sum of $13,500 in 2009. Caleb slides the papers toward the judge. They have had no meaningful contact with their daughter until 3 days after Benjamin's death, when they suddenly appeared at the reading of his will. The judge's eyebrows lift as she examines the document. Mr. Keene, were you aware of this legal relinquishment of parental rights? Martin Keene's confident smile falters for the first time. Your Honor, my clients have freely admitted they made mistakes in the past. People change. Their concern now is genuine. Your Honor, Caleb continues, I also have court records showing that Benjamin Thomas had to file for protection against Grant and Nadine when they repeatedly attempted to extort money from him between 2019 and 2023. He produces another file. These include transcripts of threatening phone calls where Grant Thomas specifically mentioned causing problems for Arcadia Home and Living if financial demands weren't met. There is the granted restraining order from 2021 as well. The gallery breaks into whispers. Judge Richardson taps her gavel once, silencing the room. Additionally, Caleb says, I have an audio recording I'd like the court to hear. He nods to the clerk, who sets up a small speaker. Grant's voice fills the courtroom, tinny but unmistakable. Ben, you've got $15 million tied up in that business. What's $50,000 to you? If you don't help out your own brother, I'll have to consider other options. Stella's doing well at the company, isn't she? Would be a shame if something disrupted that. 5 Port. Nadine's face has gone pale. Grant stares straight ahead, jaw tight. This recording was made 14 months ago. Caleb explains. When Benjamin was in perfect health, long before any cardiac issues. Benjamin documented every contact attempt specifically, because he feared this day would come. The judge turns to Iris. Miss Pruitt, you were Mr. Thomas's housekeeper for 16 years, correct? Iris rises, her voice steady despite her trembling hands. Yes, Your Honor. I cared for Mr. Ben's household and helped raise Stella after her parents left. And in your observation, what was Mr. Thomas's mental state in his final months? Clear as a bell right to the end, Your Honor. He ran that business every day, reviewed financials every Friday with Stella, and could tell you the inventory numbers from memory. He was planning the spring collection the day before he passed. And his relationship with his niece? Iris's eyes soften. Mr. Ben loved that girl like his own daughter. He was so proud of how she grew up, how she took to the business, said she had better instincts than he did. They had Sunday dinner together every week without fail, even when the business was crazy busy. Next, 3 store managers testify about Ben's mental acuity and his frequent expressions of pride in my business contributions. Sarah from the flagship store describes how Ben would tell customers, my niece picked that line herself. She's got the eye for what people really want in their homes. Throughout it all, my parents maintain their composed facade, though I notice Nadine's knuckles whitening as she grips her purse. Grant whispers urgently to Martin Keene, who looks increasingly uncomfortable. When all testimony concludes, Judge Richardson removes her glasses and surveys the courtroom. I've seen enough to make a determination regarding the emergency petition. The request for injunctive relief is denied. She turns her penetrating gaze toward my parents. Furthermore, I find the timing and nature of this petition highly suspect. The will contains a no contest clause, which is enforceable under state law. By bringing this action, the petitioners have triggered that clause and forfeited any potential claim they might otherwise have had. The relief floods through me like warm water. Iris squeezes my hand so tightly it almost hurts. Additionally, the judge continues, I am ordering the petitioners to pay all legal costs associated with this emergency hearing. She peers over her glasses directly at my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Thomas, this court will not be used as a tool for harassment or attempted extortion. Based on the documentation presented today, I am issuing a restraining order, prohibiting you from coming within 1,000 feet of Stella Thomas, her residence, or any Arcadia home and living property. Grant's composure finally cracks. His face flushes red, a vein pulsing at his temple. This is outrageous, he starts, but Martin Keene places a restraining hand on his arm. Any further contact in violation of this order will result in contempt charges, Judge Richardson warns. This case is dismissed. The gavel strikes with finality. People rise around us. Several courthouse observers nod approvingly in my direction. The deputy approaches my parents with restraining order paperwork. Grant's shoulders slump as he signs. His earlier confidence evaporated. It's over, Caleb says quietly. They have no further legal recourse. Iris dabs at her eyes with her handkerchief. He's watching over you, dear. Mr. Ben planned for everything. I watch as my parents gather their things, defeated. Nadine glances back once, her expression unreadable, before they disappear through the courtroom doors. 16 years of documentation just paid off, Caleb remarks, patting the legal files. Ben knew exactly what he was doing. As we walk into the sunshine outside the courthouse, I feel lighter than I have since Uncle Ben died. The inheritance is secure, the business is safe. Most importantly, the truth about real family has been affirmed in the most public way possible. Iris links her arm through mine as we descend the courthouse steps. What are you thinking, Miss Stella? I touch Uncle Ben's watch on my wrist, feeling its steady tick against my pulse. I'm thinking that loyalty isn't about blood. It's about showing up, day after day, year after year. A small crowd of store employees waits at the bottom of the steps, breaking into applause as we approach. In their faces, I see the community Uncle Ben built, the true legacy he left behind. I am no longer the abandoned child, or even just the grieving niece. I am the guardian of everything. Ben valued the business he built, the people he employed, and the family he chose. My shoulders straighten with the responsibility and the privilege of carrying his legacy forward. And for the first time since his death, I know with absolute certainty that I am equal to the task. I stand at the podium, fingertips resting lightly on polished wood, looking out at a sea of faces. 6 months since the courtroom victory, and the transformation still catches me off guard sometimes. Arcadia Home and Living was built on one simple principle. I say into the microphone, voice steady where it once might have trembled. That quality matters in our products, in our service, and most importantly, in our relationships. The Seattle Business Journal's annual award ceremony buzzes with quiet energy. 300 of the city's most influential business leaders fill the ballroom, and not one of them makes me doubt myself anymore. The Crystal Community Leadership Award catches the light beside me, Ben's legacy made tangible. In the front row, Iris beams, her silver-streaked hair, elegantly styled for the occasion. Beside her, Caleb adjusts his glasses, offering a small nod of approval. My true family, bound by choice rather than blood. My uncle taught me that integrity in business mirrors integrity in life. I continue. And when Arcadia opens its Tacoma location next month, we'll bring that same commitment to a new community. The memory of those chaotic days after my parents' return feels distant now. The newspaper articles about the court case line my office drawer, not as a reminder of pain, but of strength. Local business hire wins decisive victory, read the headlines. The coverage validated what Ben had always told me. The truth, when properly prepared and presented, eventually wins out. My parents left town within 48 hours of the judge's ruling. Their threats proved as empty as their promises had been 16 years ago. The restraining order remains filed with every police department in a 100-mile radius, though we haven't needed it. People willing to abandon a child for money rarely show the courage to face consequences. The Benjamin Thomas Foundation officially launches next week. I announce, warmth spreading through my chest at the whispers of approval. Our mission is simple: to support those rebuilding lives after family betrayal. Because sometimes the family that matters most is the one you choose. From the corner of my eye, I catch Margaret Wilson, our newest store manager, dabbing at tears. 3 weeks ago, she stood in my office, shaking just as I once had in Caleb's conference room, explaining how her brother was pressuring her to share our upcoming product line with competitors. The parallel wasn't lost on me. When people face impossible family pressures, I'd told her then, they deserve more than sympathy, they deserve protection. Caleb drafted a cease and desist the same day. Iris took Margaret for coffee and shared stories of Ben's unwavering boundaries. Security installed new protocols to protect our design files. The systematic support I provided felt nothing like my own panicked reaction months before. Sleep comes easily now. Morning coffee on the porch has become a quiet celebration rather than a jumpy waiting game. The business thrives, revenue up 23%, employee satisfaction at record levels. But these external markers pale beside the internal shift. I no longer wonder if I'm worthy of what Ben built. I know I am. The foundation has already helped 3 individuals successfully defend their boundaries. I continue at the podium. People just like our own employees who face impossible choices between loyalty and self-protection. In the audience, Thomas Reynolds nods appreciatively. As our youngest department manager, he benefited from the foundation's legal support when his parents attempted to access his newly established investment accounts. The look of relief on his face when I promised company resources still warms my heart. Iris Pruitt will serve as the foundation's program director, I announce, watching her straighten with pride. Her official role as estate manager and family advisory board member has formalized what she's always been, the heart of our unconventional family. Nobody understands better how to help people find their chosen families. After the ceremony, Caleb approaches with champagne flutes. His retainer has been enhanced, making him our permanent legal advisor. Another anchor in the storm. Ben would be proud, he says simply. He prepared me for this, I reply. I just didn't know it at the time. The business center buzzes around us, but my thoughts drift to that first night, after my parents left me, Iris braiding my hair, Ben reading Goodnight Moon. They chose me before I could choose them. Now I honor that choice every day. Back at the estate, I slip off my heels and pad into Ben's old study, my study now. The expansion plans for Arcadia's 3rd location spread across the desk. Decisions that once would have paralyzed me now energize instead. No second guessing, no fear of failure, just clear vision and decisive action. The phone rings. It's the foundation's first scholarship recipient, calling to share that she's completed her business degree. Another life rebuilding, another circle completing. Uncle Ben taught me that love is a choice we make every day. I tell her, the truth of it settling in my bones. Sometimes the hardest part is believing we deserve to make that choice. As I hang up, I catch my reflection in the window. I've become the leader Ben always saw in me. The abandoned child is still there, but she's no longer driving my decisions. Instead, she informs my compassion. The evening breeze carries the scent of Iris's garden through the open window. Tomorrow brings board meetings, foundation work, and interview preparations for the Tacoma store. But tonight, in this quiet moment, I acknowledge the journey. When people show you who they are, believe them, and then choose who deserves your loyalty. Not a lesson I wanted to learn twice, but one I'll never forget. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your values. Ben knew that. Now I do too.